Hello, amazing business owners. Welcome back to another episode of Business Straight Up with Brooke Summer. That's me. I'm your host. This is the podcast and place to be for business owners and creatives who want to actually make a living doing what they love. And today's episode is a continuation from last week. So if you didn't listen to last week, you're going to want to hear a little bit of background and what ADHD has looked like in my life, because this is part 2 of a series on running a business with ADHD. Now, if you haven't heard the first one and you're like, Brooke, I'm not going back. Okay, I really want you to go back, but if you don't want to, it's cool. I do want to let you know that I have kind of an unpopular opinion when it comes to ADHD, in that I don't see it as a disorder. I think that the only reason that it's a disorder is because our world is set up for neurotypical people. And when we don't fit into that, it's all of a sudden classified as a disorder. And I think that's bullshit. To me, it's a superpower. So we are going to start at number 3 in our list of 8 strategies that you can use when it comes to running a business with ADHD. We are on number 3, people. If you want to hear 1 and 2, go back to last week and listen in. Number 3, I really want you to have a place to brain dump and schedule a plan to revisit it. Also known as get the ideas and things you need to do out of your head and stop letting them take your brain energy. My mother is forever telling me that I have a great memory. And it's true, I do. But I also use a lot of tools to help my brain remember things and also keep track of things that I would otherwise constantly be chasing and trying to remember. Personally, I use Evernote. It is my go-to tool for anything. I just have to get out of my brain and into a tool that I can search and reference later if I want to. If I know it's going to be a list of things to do, I'll use Asana instead, but Evernote has my go-to place. And sometimes I don't even go back to those things. And that's okay too. But if I need it, the information is there. Now, this sounds silly, but it's things like, when we were moving, I would literally write out what was in every box with a box number in Evernote so that I didn't have to remember. I don't want to have to remember where the duffel bags are in my basement. Like, these are things that are taking up energy in your brain that you can let go of when you put them into a digital tool. You can also write them down elsewhere, but for me, I find a digital tool works best. This allows me to free up space in my brain and still have the information if I need it, so that I'm not looking for it later and allowing those distractions to creep in. Because if you write something on a Post-it note, you save it on your desk, and then you clear off your desk for some reason, and now you're looking for it, what else are you going to do? Oh, I'm just going to organize this drawer. Oh, I'm just going to do this over here. So this is a place where you can go, one place for all of that information. Here's the other important part of this. You have to schedule time to look at this note in your week. Even just 20 or 30 minutes, schedule a reminder to go back and look at this note, clear it out if you want to. I don't, but some people feel better if they clear it out, and take action on the things that you have entered. So what does this look like for a business? Because this sounds like a lot of work, Brooke. Well, a few weeks ago, I was taking down the holiday decorations in my studio. I was putting my floral set back up. I have this beautiful floral set inspired by Gatsby. I love it, but it became my holiday set in November, December. So I had to take down the holiday stuff and put the floral back up. Now, while I was in my studio, I noticed that I needed a new 8x8 sample album. My old one is like literally years old, not looking so good. So I also wanted to get a set of metal prints that were designed to go together in a triptych on the wall. And when I was there in my studio, I didn't have my laptop. I wasn't in a position to order those right then. I wanted to choose the photos and figure them out and design them appropriately. I was literally in the middle of putting up my studio set, my floral set. Stopping to go to my desk and do a sample order would have meant leaving the set incomplete. And I didn't want to do that either. So instead, I opened up Evernote and I went to the note that is literally called Brooke Random Text to Myself and put in the new sample pieces that I wanted to order. It is the number 1 note in Evernote. So it pops up daily when I open Evernote. It's always at the front page, and that's a Evernote feature. So a week later, when I was in that note, because I have scheduled to do so, to go back and look at that note, I can see the reminders to myself of things I need to do or ideas that I had that I might want to explore some more. So then I'm at my desk and I see, oh yeah, I needed to order that 8x8 album sample. I needed to order those metal prints, and I can take care of it now because I'm at my desk. I can even schedule time in my day to take care of it later if I need to. More examples. I even used this for this very podcast episode. I was lying in bed late at night because where else do our good ideas come from, right? The shower and bed late at night. And I remembered a story about ADHD that I wanted to share. So I put it in my random notes to myself in Evernote, and it is now a part of this podcast episode. I would have never remembered it the next day. There is no way. I like to think I would have, but I would not have remembered it the next day. But because I have this spot for random ideas and thoughts, I was able to include it. This is where I put all of the random stuff that I need to know later so that I'm not working on remembering it for a week. Have you ever looked at a number, like one of those stupid security codes they send to your phone, and it's like 6 digits and you have to repeat it over and over again in your brain? You're like 417674. Excuse me, 417674. And you have to say it to yourself over and over and over again until you have to go to the place. Uh-oh, I lost my microphone for a second. There we go. Okay, we'll start that thought over. This is where I put all of the random stuff that I need to know later so that I'm not spending my brain energy on working to remember it for a week. Have you ever looked at a number, like when someone's like, we sent a 6-digit notification number to your phone, you're going to need that to log in. And so you go to your phone and you're like 671174, 671174. And you have to repeat it over and over and over again until you actually put it into the app where you needed to put it in the first place before you can stop remembering it. How much energy is that shit taking up in your brain daily? The things that you want to try to remember, but you don't. These things take up way too much energy. If it's something random and small, why are we spending our energy on that? You need to have a random place to take notes. I really recommend digitally after losing so many Post-it notes myself, where you can reference them later. The other bonus to digital is you can search. I had measured my daughter a few months ago for a dress. I put those measurements in Evernote so I would have them later. And I can now literally just search the word measurements and go right to them. It's magical. Highly, highly recommend getting that stuff out of your brain. I cannot tell you how freeing it is to have a space for random brain stuff. And don't judge yourself on this either, okay? Recovering perfectionist here. Don't worry about perfect grammar or spelling. Don't worry about whether things are spaced properly or even make sense. Just get it out of your brain so you're not constantly trying to remember something that is taking up way too much space unnecessarily. These are random to-dos. These are random, oh yeah, I should probably look at that. These are all the random things that we think about every day, literally millions of bits of information that our brain is processing every day. Get them out of your brain so you don't have to remember them and spend that energy. Number 4, understand how your brain works and pair the things that you don't want to do with the little dopamine hits that your brain wants. ADHD people, we are always chasing that dopamine. When you know that, it really, really helps, even if it sounds obvious. Like, duh, of course we are. Everyone likes dopamine, right? It's like a little drug that you get every time you do something good. You're like, ooh, that felt good. You don't have to know all the biology behind it, the chemicals that are moving in different ways in your brain, misfiring, what ADHD does to that or more. You don't have to read a million books on it. We'll talk more about that later too, but just understand what your brain is trying to do and why. Chasing the dopamine is real, y'all. So how can we harness that brain desire and use it to our benefit? What motivates you? And I'm not just talking about these big revenue goals. Of course, we would all like to buy a new car with cash or whatever makes you happy. Sometimes we have to break things down to give ourselves a little dopamine hit during the day. Is there a task that you really hate doing, like paying your electricity bill? We all have little habits throughout the day that we find ourselves doing because of the way it feels, either emotionally or physically. Can you attach one of those habits to doing the things that you don't want to do? For instance, if you play with a fidget toy at your desk, I mean, I don't know who has fidget toys at their desk, not me, y'all. I have little magnet balls that I love. I have fidget spinners. I play games on my phone. All of these little things that you're doing throughout the day, can you attach one of these things that you don't want to do to that? Can you put the toy away until that bill is paid? It's a small reward, but something that you obviously enjoy, or you wouldn't be doing it. Or maybe you really love a beautiful cappuccino in the morning. Can you make that your reward for getting something done that you don't really want to do? When my son was in traditional school, we found that teachers that were a good fit for him were the ones that were open to alternative ways to motivate him. A sticker at the end of the day did not touch my son. My daughter is like so fiercely proud of her sticker. Oh my gosh, she just loves that sticker. My son was like, yeah, I don't need a damn sticker. The little green mark on the calendar, like green for a good day, yellow was okay, a red, we need to talk kind of thing. The little green entry on the calendar that went home to mom and dad is not going to make him want to get things done. It's just not. One teacher in particular figured out that for him, it was releasing energy. So she told him that if he got his worksheets done, he could run twice around the mobile classrooms that they were in. Now, these were math worksheets. He's really good at math, but he just wasn't doing them. But as soon as she told him that, he was so excited about this, you guys, which is laughable to me because I always tell people if I'm running, you need to run too because there's something really scary behind me. I'm not a runner. But for him, this was a huge motivator. He wanted so much to be outside moving around, and this was a total game changer. It didn't cost anything. It wasn't complicated. And it took about 30 seconds of time and made a huge, huge difference for him. Think of the little things you do throughout the day that give you that little dopamine hit, and be honest with yourself. This isn't homework to be graded. You don't have to turn it in or worry about someone judging you. This is for your own growth, to reach your own goals. So consider it. Do you really love looking at Instagram and scrolling? No Instagram time until X is done. Do you really want to create a new set in your studio and get that wall painted? Well, no researching all the different paint colors or going down the Pinterest rabbit hole of ideas until X is done. Do you want to find a new restaurant to visit when your friend is in town and find something really great to do while she's here? Well, no reading reviews or searching for new places until X is done. Think of these little rewards. Consider these things that you can give to yourself for doing the things that you really don't want to do, and start to reward yourself every day with these little tasks, these little bonuses. Which brings us to number 4. Actually, number 5. I move these around a bit. Brings us to number 5. Know your why and celebrate your hard work, and take time to celebrate your success in a way that matters most to you. We have talked about designing your life a lot in life coaching, podcast episodes, and more. And this is just one more piece of it. And number 4, we discussed the smaller things, the little hits of dopamine every day that you can attach to the things that you don't really want to do. But I also want you to think bigger too. What are the bigger goals that really excite you that are not necessarily in the form of dollar signs? Now, these goals might have dollar signs attached to them, but let's be real. I mean, most of them do, right? But what really excites you? For years, I have had a goal to take each one of my kids on their own trip every single year, just a few days, but just time with the two of us to enjoy. This isn't a goal I can write into the revenue line, right? Like, I guess you could, like $500 for this trip, but it changes every year. So that doesn't really work. And making this a priority last year and knowing that it was something I was going to do no matter what, I was committed to this, meant that it was always in the back of my brain. When I was distracted, I would remember that I had this trip coming up and I really wanted to do a specific thing on that trip. So I needed to get my work done and move towards my revenue goals so that we could take this trip. What are the things that excite you that you can use for celebration? I feel like champagne is the go-to symbol for this. And if you love champagne, that's cool. But this is not always a champagne moment. Everyone is different. Maybe it's a specific hike that you've always wanted to do, but it's like 3 hours away and you didn't want to drive that far, and maybe stay the night or not. It really doesn't matter what it is. We have to figure out what motivates you in a bigger way. So we have our little hits all day long, But now we're going to talk about the bigger things. At the end of the year last year, I decided I was going to get myself a very fancy cheese tray. And I had my friends over to celebrate my year because I smashed my goals. Because charcuterie or cheese tray, cheese board, whatever you want to call it, is delicious, right? I love my fancy cheese trays. I have a very specific cheese shop that I love. It's called So Damn Gouda, just in case you're wondering, it's in Denver. And I looked forward to this for a few months. Even if my friends couldn't come over, I was going to have my cheese tray, put on whatever I wanted to watch or listen to, and I was going to enjoy it. I didn't even have champagne with it. What is this bigger reward for you? Is it a trip? Is it a night out with friends? Is it a fancy cheese tray? Is it a specific purchase you've been eyeing? Consider these bigger rewards in addition to the smaller everyday ones. They can be a constant reminder that you're working towards something bigger so that when you're having trouble focusing, you can think about those awesome rewards and how they will feel and work on the things that you need to work on and keep your focus where it needs to be. Number 6. I think, do we have our numbers right? Yes. Number 6, outsource and get support. Hire that shit out. I try not to clap too loud right next to the microphone, but seriously, y'all, hire it out. Get rid of it, especially when it comes to the things you don't want to do. There can be so many emotions tied to this, and people fight this all the time, and I get that. I have talked with some of my peers and students about hiring things out like house cleaning, and it brings up so many of our old stories and beliefs that aren't going to serve us in this new successful version of ourselves. I didn't want to get a house cleaner because I didn't want my kids to never know what it's like to clean a toilet. I didn't want them to think that they're better than that. And so I've been very, very careful since hiring my housekeepers that I still maintain that with my kids, because I want to make sure that they understand. That's something that's important to me. One of my friends was ready to hire someone to clean her house, but was dealing with a ton of guilt around it because when she was younger, her mother cleaned houses. And she felt guilty for considering hiring someone to do something that her family once did, but she needed help. I shared with her that chances are this person that she was considering hiring was going to clean someone's house either way. Wouldn't it be better to hire her and be an awesome blessing in her life, to treat her well, to pay her well, and be that employer or boss that her mother may not have had? We all have things that we are better at than others. We all have unique gifts. And chances are, if there is something you really hate doing, there is someone out there who is excellent at it. They can probably do it better than you can. I know that none of us likes to think people can do something better than we can, but I promise you there's someone that can probably do it better than you. And hiring that out would open up your time to be able to focus on the things that you need to do to move towards your biggest goals. What are the things you procrastinate on? Maybe to the point of serious consequences, like paying your electricity bill. An example for me, I really hate doing tax paperwork. I would rather stick needles in my eyeballs. I hate doing tax paperwork, to the point where my CPA told me he is retiring and he will not keep us as clients if he has to do more extensions. Y'all, this is dumb. It's not that hard. And yet I still don't do it. I'm perfectly capable of doing it. I hate it. I don't want to do it. So one of the things that I outsource is bookkeeping. I have a bookkeeper that takes care of most of the business tax stuff because I hate doing it. So much so that I avoid it, sometimes for literally months, which can involve some serious penalties, and is something that we can't just choose not to do. I'm too cute for prison, you guys. This is not an option. I need to stay on top of this shit. But because I know it's not my strength, it's not something my brain wants to do, I hire it out. And hiring a bookkeeper is one of the best decisions I've ever made in my business. One of the things that I hear so often is I can't afford to hire this out right now. If you can't write a check or pay someone directly, chances are there is a solution somewhere. Maybe there's another mom in the neighborhood who has small children who would love an afternoon to herself to do whatever she wants to do. And she would be happy to do your books if you watch her kids one afternoon a week. Now, speaking as a mom of a son who for 10 years was an only child, I can tell you that having other kids over to my house was a huge blessing for me because they would go play. Think of these things that you can creatively set up to get things done. Maybe you're a really, really great cook and you can double your family's meals that you're already making twice a week and give those meals to someone else who can handle something you don't want to do in your business so that they have some pre-made meals like editing or bookkeeping or whatever that looks like. Get creative. Think outside the box, come up with a solution. And if you really, truly can't hire things out right now, break them down to make them more manageable or get support to do them. When my husband is frustrated with me because I haven't done the tax paperwork, and yes, it is something I have to do. I have all the business stuff. He does not. I have to do it. I get that. I have actually told him, okay, I know I need to do this. Can you all leave the house for an hour and bring home lunch at this time, and I will do it while you're gone. When I give him details of what I need to complete this, he will help. If you don't have a partner, what about a friend or a family member? I know that if one of my friends called me and said, I really need to get this done, can you please watch the kids and send me a text just to like hold me accountable and make sure I'm on task and I'll be done at 2, I would be happy to help. Absolutely. Ask for what you need. We live in a culture where we are not comfortable asking for help. And I'm telling you right now, you're going to run a business, you're going to need help, especially if you got kids, because they are a drain on our energy, but we love them so damn much. No one is perfect. No one can do it all. Get help where you need it, even if it's just someone holding you accountable. It can be a lot harder to tell someone else that we didn't get it done than it is to tell ourselves that. If you know you need that, then ask. Ask a friend. Ask someone that you know will be there for you. Hire that shit out. Outsource it. Get rid of it. Get creative. Number 7, analytics matter because we do business based on how we feel. Now, this is true for neurotypical people as well, but especially for us ADHDers. And the ones who don't care about how they feel or other people feel, they're kind of the sociopaths, right? Like there is always an element of validation and good feelings in business. You started a business, the idea was good. Yay, that feels good, right? Or you invested in a business and you were smart to make that investment. Yay, that feels good, right? Feelings are tied so much to what we do in business. And sometimes it's easy to get lost in that day-to-day stuff. The things that feel like time sucks and they don't really show a lot of ROI. Writing blog posts, social posts, emails, feeling like no one is reading them sucks. It can be very draining and frustrating and it's hard. So why keep going, right? This is where those analytics and metrics come in and can make a huge difference. Every single Monday for the past 3 years, I track the metrics that are important to me. These will be different depending on your chosen marketing platforms and strategies, but for me, it's my email list, communities, and revenue. I have a spreadsheet that I use to track it all, and I'm committed to doing this every single Monday. I think I missed one last year because I was traveling, but I will even try to do it on my phone because I know how much this matters to my brain. When I was creating this episode, I realized you all might want access to my tracking sheet, so I have added a link for it. You can find it in the show notes or go to businessstraightedup.com/analytics right now to grab it. So why does this matter? How does it help to actually track these analytics and metrics? I know everyone's been saying you need to look at the numbers, and if you're not, we really, 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 really need to revisit that. And I want to encourage you to do so. You might even be saying, but Brooke, I'm not a numbers person. I want to offer that these numbers are not just numbers and you're not just tracking them to see improvement in your business, which is important. But these little differences in numbers can be that small dopamine hit when you see a tiny bit of growth. This can influence how you feel. Earlier, we talked about how much our thoughts and emotions can influence our actions, and this is especially true in the numbers and the stats that you want to track. If you're writing a blog post every week and get 0 comments and feel like no one is reading, do you really know that no one is reading? If you track the numbers in traffic, you would know exactly how many people there are. You can even track the length of time that they're on that page, so you get an idea of whether they actually read it or just click through. And if that blog post helps even just one person, isn't it worth it to keep going? So many people want to quit because they don't have the following that they see in other people's profiles, but she has 27 comments on her blog post, or he has 10,000 followers, or she has 200 likes on her photo. But here's a harsh reality. Why would God, the universe, whatever you believe, the powers that be, why would the powers that be bring you more clients, followers, and readers, and in turn revenue, if you're not consistently showing up for the few that you have now? Seeing the metrics, even if they're not where we want them to be right now, can be a reminder that someone is listening. We are growing, and that feels good. And that dopamine hit is a little nudge to keep going, to stay consistent with our action, even when it feels like no one is listening. These analytics matter. And not just for the dopamine hit, but we won't talk about the business benefits of measuring things. That's a whole different podcast episode. If you want a copy of my tracking spreadsheet, it's in Google Sheets, super simple. Go to businessstraightUp.com/analytics to get access. Quick note, that link will take you to the 2022 version. So if you're listening to this later, you might have to update the dates and weeks, the week numbers inside of the spreadsheet. Number 8, implement things and take action. Don't just read or consume constantly. I gotta take a deep breath on this one, because this one feels like I'm being a little personally attacked here. So I know some of you will feel this too, but we're going there. Are you someone that is constantly reading books, listening to podcasts, or buying courses to learn more? Some people call that procrastinating. It's very, very common with ADHD. It's also really common with recovering perfectionists like myself. And yes, you might have had things you need to learn, but I want to ask you, and again, be honest. This answer is just for you and your own growth. No one is judging you. Are you continuously consuming other people's content instead of creating your own and taking actions towards your biggest dreams? Ouch. I feel like that one is directed at me. I'm looking into a mirror like, what's up, Brooke? Way too often we will read more, learn more, listen more, all in an attempt to learn and get things right before we actually start taking action, because we don't want to fail. Because our brains love that little dopamine hit of, quote, doing something, when the reality is that we're not actually doing anything. We're consuming instead of creating. We live in a consumer culture, and this is true even in the business space, even in the knowledge space, the online stuff. Reaching our biggest dreams and goals requires massive action, which will usually include failure, instead of just consuming other people's content. So what can you do to actually take that action instead of just starting another podcast episode and hitting play? But leave mine on, okay? Force yourself to actually do something with what you learned. Now, this, of course, doesn't apply to fun hobbies. If you're listening to murder mystery podcasts, I don't know how you do that, because I wouldn't sleep at night. I'm not suggesting you go out and sign up for a forensics course. Okay, that's not what I'm saying. But when it comes to business content, when you listen to a business podcast episode, what do you actually do with that information? This is why at the end of every episode on my podcast, I ask you to come into the community and tell me what you're going to do with this information that you just consumed. And do you know how many people actually do that? Maybe 2. Ever in a lot of years of having a podcast. Most people don't. Most people don't take action. If you learn something about email marketing, like, hey, free plug, free email marketing 101 course at businessstraightUp.com/email101, what do you actually do with that information afterwards? The people who learn and actually take action based on what they learn are the ones who keep growing and seeing more and more success in their lives and in their businesses. I want to encourage you to set aside time to act after learning something new. For me, this is what I do. I actually take a screenshot of whatever I'm listening to or watching, because when I see it in my camera roll, that is my reminder to do something. I schedule time on my calendar to implement the things I've learned. I call it implementation time. And when that time comes and I'm like, okay, I don't remember what I learned that I was supposed to implement, because that happens, I go through my camera roll and I say, oh yeah, was that episode on Instagram and I'm supposed to do this. And then I do it. You can also put in a note into your random text to yourself in Evernote notes, whatever you're using, to follow up with this specific podcast later because there's a download you wanted to get or something that you wanted to implement. The world belongs to the people who take action, my friends. And for me personally, perfectionism paired with the consumption of other people's content has sucked up way too much of my time and energy instead of serving me in my biggest goals. Now, maybe you have this down and you don't struggle with this at all. And if you do, that's amazing. Share some tips or words of encouragement with those of us that are still working on it and still trying to master it. But if you're struggling with this, and so many of us are, put a plan in place to start to move out of the consumption pattern and into creation. Woo, that was a lot. So let's recap. Number one, these are the strategies that I have learned and put into place so that I can run a successful business with ADHD. Number one, learn to manage your brain. Stop beating yourself up about the perceived failures that happen and stop letting those thoughts control you. Number two, schedule your days. We're going to do a whole nother podcast on this, but I promise you, try it. Try it. You'll be amazed. You'll be like, damn, Brooke was right. Number three, have a place to brain dump and schedule a plan to revisit that brain dump. Number four, understand how your brain works and pair the things that you absolutely do not want to do, the little mundane, boring tasks, with the little dopamine hits that your brain wants. Number five, know your why. How to celebrate your hard work and take time to celebrate your success in a way that matters to you. Number six, outsource, get support, hire that shit out. Number seven, analytics matter because we do business based on how we feel. And this is common for everyone, but especially with ADHD. Number eight, implement things and take action. Don't just read or consume continuously. That is my list of 8 strategies that you can put into place today to start actually moving towards your dream when you're running a business with ADHD, when your brain is different. Your ADHD can be a superpower or a disability. There isn't a right or wrong choice here. Some people are able to work through it. Others need outside help. And in the end, you have to choose the option that serves you and what you want to accomplish. Everyone is different. Every brain is different. Every human is different. Do what works best for you. One of my favorite Robin Williams quotes is, "We are only given a little spark of madness. You mustn't lose it." I choose to look at my ADHD as my superpower, something that can be so frustrating and upsetting at times, lots of tears shed, but also something that allows my brain to come up with amazing ideas and creations. It is part of me. I'm going to try and hold back tears when I share this. When my son was in 3rd grade, I picked him up from school and he got into the car and was crying, and Mama Bear kicked in and I was like, "Who do I need to beat up, son?" I'm kidding. I wouldn't beat up a child in most cases. Kidding. I started driving home and I asked him what was wrong. And he said that some of the kids in his class said he was crazy. I pulled the car over, I did one of those, pulled the car over on the side of the road so I could put it in park and turn around completely to face him because I was in the driver's seat. He was in the back seat. He was stunned. He was like, damn, what happened? He thought that he had said something wrong or was in trouble. I held both of his hands and looked into his eyes as tears streamed down his face. And I told him, the best people in the world are all a little crazy. That is a compliment. Never let someone talk you into being what they consider to be normal. ADHD does not mean there's something wrong with you. It means that you're different. It means that I'm different. But that can also be a beautiful thing. It can be our superpower if we learn to get through it. With or without medication, with or without diagnosis, doesn't matter. We have to learn to put into place some of these processes and strategies that work for us. I wanted to end this series with another quote from David Neeleman, again, the founder of JetBlue. And he struggled with ADHD and dyslexia continuously. And he said, "If someone told me you could be normal or you could continue to have your ADHD, I would take ADHD. And I could not agree more. There are things about us that might be a little strange. They might scare other people. Remember, my husband was terrified looking in my eyes when I just let my brain out. It's like a million browser tabs all at once. He was like, whoa. But I wouldn't change that. That's me. That's how I come up with some of my best ideas. That's how I am genuinely interested in other people, which is a huge part of my business. Huge. Oh, for all of my amazing listeners, thank you so much for joining me today. I am truly honored that you pressed play and spent this time with me in your earbuds or car stereo or while you cook dinner or whatever you're doing. I'm so happy to be there with you. If you are someone that loves to help other people and you know someone who is struggling with this, someone who might be dealing with ADHD and they're trying to run a business and they're like, I don't know what to do. I'm frustrated. I'm crying. There's tears. There's yelling. There's screaming. Please forward this episode over to them. And if you are inspired and you're ready to make a change and you love this content and you want to send some good vibes my way, can you head on over to iTunes and leave a review? You can go to businessstraightup.com/iTunes. We'll take you directly there. It might seem silly. It can take a few minutes, but those reviews help me know exactly what you need help with and how I can better serve you. And it helps me to get amazing guests too. What can I say? So hit pause now, leave a review. And if you screenshot your review before hitting submit, email it over to hello@businessstraightup.com. I will send you a free gift. Please leave those reviews so we can continue bringing you great content every week. One more call to action, y'all. Remember, we talked about taking action and actually implementing the things that you have learned. I want you to come over to the community. Excuse me. It's a Facebook group. It's our little corner of Facebook where we can chat about business stuff. I'm so happy to help you with your business questions and the things that you most need help with. You can access this community at businessstraightup.com/community. And I want to know what is one of these strategies out of 8 that you are going to start using to help you in your business, whether you have ADHD or not. You do not have to have ADHD to implement these things. There are some of these things that will work for everyone. Actually, you know what? All of them will work for everyone. So whether you have it or not, I want to know, which one are you going to start implementing and take action on? Keep learning, keep moving forward, keep taking action. Don't just learn, don't just consume, keep taking action and rocking all of your biggest business goals. Sorry, y'all, I got a little choked up at the end there. It's a little harder to talk. Keep rocking all of your biggest business goals, even through the craziness that we're still living in here in 2022. I can't wait to see what you do with your gifts and your business and how you show the world that ADHD business owners are badasses. I want to see it, y'all. I want to see how you affect and impact the world. Have an amazing rest of your day.